CGI has come a long way in the last few decades. I mean, who could forget the unintentionally hilarious death of Samuel L. Jackson's character in Deep Blue Sea?
Well, they can get a whole lot worse.
But thankfully, we're not here to talk about that today. Instead, we're here to celebrate some of the best CGI effects of recent memory and give you a behind-the-scenes look at how filmmakers pulled them off. So let's check out some of the best behind-the-scenes moments that reveal CGI magic at work. But before we get to the good stuff, make sure you remember to subscribe to Screen Rant if you want to see more awesome videos just like this one. And while we're stopped here, let's take a look at our emoji trivia question of the day. Can you guess the movie based solely on these emoji? I'll give you a hint. The answer is somewhere on this list. Stay tuned until the end to find out.
And who is capable of disarming such a device?
The Dark Knight Rises. Kicking off our list is the third and final installment in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. Like its predecessors, The Dark Knight Rises was a huge critical and commercial success when it was released in 2012. The film still holds its position as the fourth highest grossing superhero movie of all time, and Nolan's Batman trilogy is responsible for raking in around $2.5 billion at the box office. Nolan's Batman films are known for their psychological focus and darker tone, but that doesn't mean they don't include some amazing stunts and CGI effects. Perhaps the coolest feat of special effects in all three films is the scene in which Bane detonates a myriad of bombs peppered throughout Gotham's football stadium. Surprisingly, a decent amount of the shot was achieved right on set, but CGI was needed in order to take the sequence to the next level. The crew created a raised replica that was laid on top of a real field. Small explosions were carefully set off in the background as the stunt team dove into holes in the field set. Once this shot was finished, it took animators months to create the collapsing field, adding in CGI football players and tons of chaotic dust and debris. The result is a pretty impressive blend of in-camera stunt work and CGI magic.
So why don't you lift up that face mask and give me a kiss?
Ping pong, beep beep, huh. Yep, damn it.
Iron Man. Designing Iron Man's armor was a crucial aspect of production in the film. Stark's iconic armor had to be impressive, or it might have turned audiences away from the theater. His suit was created using a blend of real armor, designed and built by Stan Winston Studios, and CGI effects that enhanced the character's presence. Designers went through countless CG models and clay creations before finalizing the look of Iron Man. But a lot of the design elements couldn't be completed until Robert Downey Jr. was attached to the film. It's kind of amazing to see RDJ walk into Stan Winston Studios for the first time, ogling model pieces that would eventually become one of his most iconic on-screen characters. The final product is incredibly impressive and must have been daunting to come face to face with in person, but the look couldn't be complete without some help from CGI. There are a lot of incredible visual effects in the Iron Man films, but we think the most impressive effects are actually the subtle blend of CGI and costume work. In some scenes, RDJ isn't wearing the Iron Man costume at all. Instead, he's donning the familiar and always hilarious motion capture suit.
Kill power.
And yet, animators were skillfully able to create this suit digitally. The result is a mind-boggling blend in which you never know whether you're looking at the real thing or a CGI replica. The Perfect Storm. You may be wondering why this poorly received disaster drama earned a spot on our list. The Perfect Storm was released in the summer of 2000 and stars George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg as crew members of a commercial fishing boat that gets caught in a massive storm at sea. Well, it turns out that this summer blockbuster is also the debut of some truly innovative CGI work. Before The Perfect Storm, there were two different ways for filmmakers to simulate water. It could be done in large volumes like in Titanic, or by painstakingly simulating each individual droplet. The main drawback in calculating large volumes was that the water didn't react very realistically when it needed to crash into something or interact with any other objects. But on the flip side, animating each individual droplet would have taken an impossibly long amount of time, especially for computers in the 1990s.
Huge. Getting massive.
So the visual effects team developed a brand new technique that combined the efficiency of large body animation with the precision of calculating individual droplets. This technique has been further improved in later films, but it was The Perfect Storm that debuted this important leap in CGI technology. Life of Pi. Life of Pi is the 2012 adaptation of the best-selling novel of the same name that won director Ang Lee an Oscar and raked in both critical and commercial success. The film tells the story of Pi Patel, a young man who survives a shipwreck and is left adrift at sea in a lifeboat with a Bengal tiger named Richard Parker. It was crucial to filmmakers that the relationship between Patel and the tiger was realistic and sympathetic, and the only way to achieve that was to nail the special effects. A real tiger was used for the film, but the majority of the movie's more nuanced moments could only be achieved using CGI. The film employed a whole team of animators just to work on the colossal cat's hair, which included over 10,000 individually rendered strands. This all makes for one ferocious feline, but on set, actor Suraj Sharma was forced to perform alone, with a guy holding a stick or even with a hilarious blue dummy with drawn-on eyes. That's right.
I'll respect that. Promise.
For some of the film's more tender moments, Pi was cradling this demonic-looking stuffed animal. You have to hand it to the actor for keeping a straight face, and to the animators for transforming that dummy into something truly spectacular.
Hey, Maz.
Where's my boyfriend?
Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It was refreshing to see such amazing visual effects work in 2015's The Force Awakens. As Star Wars fans are painfully aware, CGI hasn't always been kind to the series.
On second thought, no. Not really, no.
The effects in the prequel trilogy were so heavy-handed that it gave the films a lifeless, airbrushed quality that detracted from scenes instead of adding life to them. Thankfully, that's not the case in J.J. Abrams' first entry in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. The Force Awakens features more than its fair share of awe-inspiring CGI, but perhaps the coolest effect was bringing Maz Kanata to life on screen. Academy Award winner Lupita Nyong'o portrayed the Pirate Queen using various forms of motion capture technology. Before filming started, Nyong'o was scanned using Disney's Medusa capture technology, which built a vast virtual library of her facial expressions. From there, she donned the motion capture suit right on set, so she was able to act alongside her co-stars outside of a green screen soundstage. Many of the alien characters in The Force Awakens were achieved the old-fashioned way, using makeup and prosthetics. But CGI has come a long way, and this film proves that animated characters can cross the uncanny valley, even if they're on screen alongside real people in prosthetics.
Then teach me how to see.
No one can teach you to see.
Whoa.
Avatar. When Avatar was released in 2009, it was heralded for its innovative use of motion capture technology. Indeed, Cameron's crew pioneered techniques that were very new at the time. The result? One of the biggest blockbusters of all time. Not only was Avatar a critical success, it has raked in over $2.7 billion at the box office. In order to create the extraterrestrial world of Pandora, filmmakers used what James Cameron and his team refer to as the head rig, which is essentially a funny helmet with strange cable dreads, hilarious fake ears, and an essential face cam that captures every subtle aspect of the actors' performances. Animators were able to use these close-ups in order to incorporate every subtle aspect of the performances into the final animation. But it wasn't just the faces. Actors were suspended, flown around, or even carried the old-fashioned way in order to produce realistic movement on the motion capture set. It goes beyond the simple term impressive to see just how little of Pandora was captured in camera, and yet the result is breathtaking.
They laugh at me. So I've come to you, hoping you might understand what it's like.
Alice in Wonderland. Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland may have received some mixed reviews when it was released back in 2010, but the film's commercial success is responsible for the re-emergence of live-action fairy tale films at Disney. Despite some criticism for the amount of CGI in the film, Alice was still nominated for Best Visual Effects at that year's Academy Awards. Whatever you might think of the final product, the behind-the-scenes footage for Alice in Wonderland gives us a fascinating glimpse into the making of this fantastical world. As you probably suspected, approximately 90% of the film was shot on a green screen stage. The cast and crew spent so long surrounded by green that Burton had lavender lenses fitted to his glasses to keep from feeling nauseated on set. But unlike a lot of the films on our list, Burton chose not to use motion capture.
I'd been shrunk, stretched, scratched, and stuffed into a teapot.
So how did they create oddball creatures like Tweedledee and Tweedledum? Actor Matt Lucas played both roles by filming each scene twice with a stand-in switching out along with him. Both actors donned a giant green suit and even sometimes had to perform on stilts. The final product was created completely by animators who recreated Lucas's performance frame by frame.
Since I had to listen to endless hours of your storytelling this week,
Gravity. Director-writer Alfonso Cuarón admitted that he didn't expect 2013's Gravity to be such a technological challenge. Once they started moving the film from script to screen, they quickly realized that they were going to have to do something innovative in order to achieve the right look for the film. And thankfully, they did just that. The result won them 7 Academy Awards, including Best Visual Effects. Their big innovation? The light box, a big square rig made out of 1.8 million individually controlled LED bulbs. In order to make it look like the actors were floating around in space, the light box actually moved around them. The actors were strapped into a harness that tilted around while the light box spun around them, and the camera moved with calculated precision in order to shoot the actor at exactly the right angle. All of this was controlled remotely by what looks like a futuristic gaming controller. Except in this video game, you kind of actually have someone else's life in your hands. Thankfully, no actors were harmed in the making of Gravity, and the result is an incredibly realistic film.
There are a lot of explosions for 2 people blending in.
Rogue One. 2016 brought us the very first film in the Star Wars anthology series, Rogue One. The film takes place before Episode 4 and details the events that saw the critical Death Star schematics end up in the hands of the Rebellion. Like anything Star Wars related, Rogue One was a commercial success, but it did draw some criticism for its use of CGI. In order to incorporate actors Carrie Fisher and Peter Cushing into Rogue One, filmmakers had to rely heavily on CGI in order to present the characters as they would have been in the franchise's timeline. The results were sometimes a little creepy, but sometimes incredibly impressive. So how did they do it? Artists pored over hours of footage and carefully studied the nuances of Peter Cushing's performance. Actor Guy Henry played Tarkin on set using a camera specially designed to digitally capture his facial movements.
You had the courage to take the responsibility yourself.
After that, it took effects artists 18 months to painstakingly animate Cushing's likeness over Henry's faithful performance. The same process was used for Princess Leia's cameo, with Norwegian actress Ingvild Dale stepping in for Fisher on set. Thankfully, Carrie Fisher was able to see Rogue One and gave her approval of the film before passing away late last year.
Because it was really good and really intimidating.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's easy to see why 2014's The Winter Soldier was nominated for Best Visual Effects at the Academy Awards. It took a powerhouse of a team to create the incredible visuals in the film, which is why not 1, not 2, but 6 special effects companies worked on the film. The majority of that work was led by the visionary team at Industrial Light and Magic, and they gave viewers an awesome inside scoop into how many of the stunning effects were produced.
Nobody spills the secrets because nobody knows them all.
Except you.
It's no surprise to see that much of the Triskelion and the helicarrier that crashed into it are achieved almost completely using CGI. But it's another thing to see how each piece was layered on individually. In these behind-the-scenes shots, you can see how visual effects artists started off with nothing more than a few actors, some necessary set pieces, and a whole lot of green. But with each pass, the animation gets increasingly detailed. Everything down to the smallest little explosion is carefully placed in order to create this remarkable scene. There's nothing quite like experiencing it in the theater, and we can't be the only ones stoked to see Cap returning to the big screen in next year's Avengers: Infinity War.
That just happened.
Well, that about does it for today's list. Were you surprised by any of these behind-the-scenes secrets? What's your favorite CGI sequence? Maybe we'll feature it in a future video. Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to click like and subscribe to Screen Rant so you never miss a video. And the answer for today's emoji trivia is The Life of Pi.